Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. So I am just about at the tail end. Well, actually, I spoke too soon. I still have quite a few videos to cover in the glorious Friday the 13th franchise. I actually finished up the very last movie in the series, which was the remake that came out in the early 2000s, and that was it was I don't know. It's a really great film. That's the last movie that was released. There was talk of in the last few years there was talk of there being a Friday 13th series. Not a big fan of that idea, but there's still no talk or any movement as far as a possible sequel or more Friday 13th movies. It's the last Friday the 13th movie was also the most successful in the entire series. It's interesting because the first one and then the second one, or the last one, I believe, were the most popular. So it kind of, to a degree, I guess you could say it went out with a bang. So I've been doing all of the shows with this franchise. I've been doing them, trying to do them while doing them all in order. Paramount Pictures owned the rights to Friday the 13th for many many years, so they owned it right up until Jason Takes Manhattan, and I uploaded that video. There's still other videos. There's a handful of other videos I've recorded. They're almost ready to go. I have to do a couple things and then I'll upload them. But after Jason Takes Manhattan, basically Paramount was figuring as a studio that that's going to be the end of Jason and the entire universe. So they pretty much pulled the plug on the whole thing, and that was the end of the franchise. But then they reached a point where they felt like they exhausted the storyline. How much, what else could they do with it, so and so forth. But then New Line Cinema bought the rights to the franchise, and New Line Cinema own obviously the rights also to the Friday Nightmare on Elm Street films, which led to them eventually doing the Freddy vs. Jason movie, which I will do too. I have not done a show on that for this round. Again, I have done multiple shows on these movies, but again, they're just so awesome, and I just love them. So, and it's funny because I've been posting the videos and stuff, as I've been going, and there's a lot of haters out there. It's pretty funny. There's a page that I belong to where it's supposed to be a grindhouse. It's labeled a grindhouse sleaze horror exploitation page, and so it's supposed to be for all of the trashy movies that I love. And but it's a weird page. I had posted I've posted some videos on there, and I'm an administrator, and I had posted a video on there about this series, but there was no like indication at first, but my video was taken down, and there was no like nobody said anything to me. Nobody. It was just kind of rude, and so I was like, why did they do that? And it was one of the videos in the series, so they just took the video down, and there's like a handful of administrators. So I inquired about it. I found out who was the administrator, and I asked about it, and they were kind of rude. And it's the whole thing is stupid anyway, so you can't take it that seriously. But then again, I kind of do because I put a lot of time and effort into this. I love doing this, so when I feel like people are rude, or like they could have sent me a quick little note saying, hey, you should have checked the guidelines, or you could have. What I ended up doing wrong was I didn't put like a little blurb or text like basically about the video. I just posted the video, because I guess if you don't do that, it gets kind of marked as spam. So it's understandable. So I, went ahead and I fixed it and I put it, and it's been up. But it was just like kind of rude, and it was just like taken down. It was just kind of, I think, kind of shitty. And the guy was a little bit rude, and I was like, whatever. So I posted the video anyway, and then I posted the video, and there was like 3 or 4 people that commented on the video, and they just totally trashed the video. And it's hilarious how people get so outraged. And the thing that I was so surprised by was that it felt like these 3 guys who said that basically this franchise, Friday 13th franchise, is like the worst franchise in existence. They basically said, they just trashed it, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. People can have their opinions, but I just thought it was hilarious because I felt like the angle that they were taking as to why they felt these movies were so terrible and just garbage, and more or less that nobody likes them, kind of a thing. And it was just like, okay, the uh, the angle that I felt that they were taking was that they like take these movies, like they try to look at them in a serious way, or take take them to heart as like a serious movie or a serious franchise. And I just think it's hilarious and ironic because here I am. I'm a huge fan. This is my favorite series, favorite horror series of all time, and just in general, a franchise is my favorite franchise. But I'm the first to admit that, like, at the end of the day, it's trash. It's trash. I don't take it that seriously, but that's part of the fun. That's part of the charm of it. Is that it's trash and it's just fun, healthy escapism. It's like going to an amusement park, and that's all it is. I'm not going there to be emotionally moved or like even necessarily emotionally stimulated. I want to like get my rocks off, have a good time, and call it good, and then probably want to revisit that experience. But I don't, I don't take it seriously, and it felt like with these guys who were criticizing it, they like kind of take it serious and this look at it, how does it hold up in this serious light? And I'm just like, what? These movies are fucking trash. I love these movies, and I'm even saying that. So, you gotta like unbutton your collar a little bit, and it's just people are fucking irritating. But anyway, so today's show is on a movie that has grown on me to a point of where I am almost about to say that this might be my favorite movie in the entire franchise. And I know that flies in the face of my views of the movie being number one for me in this franchise has always been Chapter 4, the final chapter. Love that movie. Love, love, love that movie. My favorite Jason, my favorite actor who played Jason, Ted White. Totally knocks it out of the park. But again, Jason Goes to Hell, which is the movie I'm going to be talking about today, because this is the first movie where New Line Cinema bought the franchise. This movie, I had a lot of mixed things about this movie. I kind of didn't like. I don't remember really liking it it came out when I was in high school, and I didn't really, growing up watching all of the movies, I was like, wow, okay, this movie. First off, I thought this is a movie where Jason really isn't in the movie. But in all actuality, he's actually in this movie more than any other movie, but minus the hockey mask. And Jason's character is in the form of basically this demon kind of creature that kind of possesses different people. So he's kind of this disembodied, you know, spirit to a degree. And he's like in the form of this like, demon. And so, but in all actuality, Jason is probably in this movie more than any other movie, which is really funny. I didn't really like this movie that much when I was growing up, and this movie has grown on me so much, and I It was directed by Adam Marcus, and I uh, absolutely love this movie. It's one of my favorites. It might, like I said, be my favorite, and that is Jason Goes to Hell. This movie is totally bonkers, totally crazy. It's got very much Adam Roberts, who's the director. I was watching an interview with him, and fascinating interview. I'm kind of in the middle of it, and he was talking about how the the one of the biggest inspirations for this movie, which came out in 1993, was John Carpenter's The Thing. So this movie definitely has a huge influence from John Carpenter's The Thing, which is a masterpiece, absolute masterpiece, arguably the best thing that John Carpenter's ever done. But my God, this movie is just so bonkers crazy and so whacked, but it totally works. I love how unique this movie is. I love how gory this movie is. It's really violent. It's really dark. It's got that sci-fi vibe to it because of the Thing influence. Really great cast. It's really funny. There's some really funny moments in it too. It's kind of gross. It's really kind of crappy, but in a wonderful, beautiful way. I cannot wait to buy this on Blu-ray. I have this DVD copy. I've had this for a long time. It's actually a really good transfer of the movie. It's definitely something I'm gonna get on Blu-ray because this will be visually this movie is really stunning. And again, the kills in this movie are just brutal as fuck. I always forget how brutal this movie actually is, just how gory it is, and just how radically different that this movie is in the franchise. This they really took some creative chances with this and creative liberties. Marcus Roberts was great. He worked on a lot of Sean Cunningham films. Earlier on in his career, he was very young when he directed this. He worked at in various departments on these films, and so this was like his film that he wanted to direct. And talk about knocking it out of the freaking park. Um, it's got one of the best like opening sequences I think ever, and I think it's got one of the best endings for a film, especially in this franchise. And again, I just love the kind of the camp of this movie. The gore is amazing. I love the humor in this film. The cast is just fantastic. It's I and again I have said for many years and throughout a lot of these videos that the final chapter with Ted White is my favorite film in the franchise by far. But this movie has grown on me so much that I'm almost ready to say that Jason Goes to Hell is probably my favorite. It went from like 0 to about 11 because when I first saw this movie, I didn't like it. I thought because it was so radically different, and again, like I said, I felt like, well, the thing that's missing from this movie is there's no Jason Voorhees. But realizing now that in all actuality, he is in this movie more than any other movie. And this movie, every time I watch it, I've watched it quite a few times. Not the first four movies are the movies I've seen the most in the franchise. I've seen those movies so many times I can't even comprehend or count. But with all of these rewatches and kind of revisiting these movies, Jason Lives being another movie that has really grown on me and that I really love now. Um, just over time, it just gets better. And Jason Goes to Hell is a movie I've probably seen probably about maybe 5 or 6 times. If you were to ask me how many times I've seen the first Friday, the 13th, or the final chapter, I couldn't measure that because there's so many times, so many times. So every time I watch Jason Goes to Hell. I'm just blown away by it. And I'm like, this movie is the fucking bomb. I love this movie. And so I'm pretty much prepared to say that this movie, Jason Goes to Hell, is my favorite in the franchise. I like movies that kind of just go, especially movies that are involved, that are a part of an established franchise, of where there's always a point sometimes where the directors or the creators are like, I think where they are like, they reach a point where they're like, fuck it, let's just throw some caution in the wind, and let's turn it on its head. Let's turn the franchise on its head. And I kind of feel like this is that a primetime example of that. I think in other franchises where that's happened is like, well, I think what Hooper did with the sequel to Texas, he really was like, I'm just gonna fuck around. This movie, the original was so popular. The original Texas was so popular. Now they want to turn it into a franchise, so I'm gonna just like fuck with it, and I'm gonna make a black comedy. And that movie's totally fucking amazing, but it's so wacky and it's so different. And I think in the Halloween, franchise, that's a big thing that's happened. Where, when Halloween 3 came out, Season of the Witch, people were like, "What the fuck is this?" Now it's gone on to be this cult, classic, and for me, it's a total masterpiece. And I have to say, the other movie in that franchise that really just was like, fuck it, let's take some real risk and turn everything on its head, was the last Halloween, Halloween Ends, which another movie everybody and their grandmother hated, and just always say what a piece of shit it is. But I actually really love that movie. So, and those are, examples of where you have a franchise that's really established, it's making money, and all of these things. And I think there's a point, of, maybe a threshold or a breaking point where they're like, you know what, fuck it, we gotta really just throw some caution to the wind and think outside of the box. And I think Jason Goes to Hell is an example of that, where they were just like, okay, the gloves are off, let's just go fucking crazy and see what happens. And sometimes it is really, really successful, and this is a prime time example of that. So I can't recommend this movie enough. This movie is just amazing. Thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.